to cut down their overhead in a time of uncertainty. And that's kind of where we are right now, I think, in the music business, is a time of uncertainty. We all know the business isn't going away, and we all know there's plenty of money out there, but we're not exactly sure how we're going to be capitalizing on new revenue streams. Obviously, streaming is here to stay. It's only getting bigger. CD sales go down every single year. But having said that, we still sell 280 million CDs in this country alone every single year. And if you think that's, an insignificant number, then remember how many CDs we sold in this country in the 1980s. It's the same number, 260, 280 million CDs. So we're selling the same amount of CDs now as we did in the so-called heyday of the music industry, except now we have a whole bunch of new revenue streams that are bringing a whole bunch of money that we never saw before.
Love it.
So how much this money is getting into the hands of artists is an entirely different conversation. And one of the big changes I see happening in the music business are negotiations are going to take a radically different turn for artists that are signed from the last 2 years and going forward forever now, in terms of how we negotiate the rights of streaming revenue. Because in a recording contract, in typical recording contract, an artist is paid for CD sales and tape and LP, and any other antiquated format. And all the other formats like streaming are considered exotic. They're considered new technologies for which you get a whole bunch of deductions. Meanwhile, those new technologies have completely eclipsed the old methods of getting paid. So how new are they, and why should we be paid less for them? Well, the answer is because the label has the leverage to negotiate that, and it's going to be the job of managers and lawyers over the next few years to try to take back some of that ground. So what I see happening in the next few years is a radical shift in the negotiations for those rights, because otherwise artists just won't get paid, because record companies don't have to report the money they get from streaming companies to recording artists. They're not required by law to do so, and they won't unless you have leverage to get the information out of them.
Well, that's a discussion that we can have forever. Accompanying the next generation opinions is technology. Technology doesn't wait for anybody, and I know that Gene Shively is imminently involved in technology as he breaks his cell phone and the microphone just at the same time. I don't know how anybody else could do that, but he did it. Anyway, I know that Gene and I have been heavily involved in technology for the last 25 years, but I know you're doing some wonderful things now. Maybe you can explain how the industry is going technology-wise.
Well, just dovetailing off of this, I think really what we're looking at, we have the actual record business that probably has never been more unsteady in its entire time. But I would say the music industry itself has never been better. The music business, that incorporating performances, merchandising, downloads, record sales, publishing, the overall industry has never been healthier. And it's really exciting to see where it's going and how quickly that technology is making it move. I know in 2006, we had a situation where I was doing live streaming through Nokia. And we were doing concerts, first performances that were up to the satellite, down to mobile devices all over the world. Now, what I realized was happening there, because it was this generation didn't have the patience to wait for something to get mixed, to get mastered, to go get manufactured, packaged, shipped, and then
instant gratification takes too long.
Right.
Instant
Whereas a live stream, it was instantaneous. And that's what we're seeing now, is a live streaming is not only being instantaneous, it is able to reach more people that's ever been reached in the history of the world, instantaneously. So that makes the industry really exciting, and more exciting than it's ever been in the past. And if you are really passionate about your music and you are driven by the passion of your music, learn about the industry itself and how that it works, and to keep on front of the technology, because I believe that where streaming and creativity, creating the content and technology meets, is where the future of this whole music industry is.
Cool. Where's my future in the record business, Javon? Come on.
Well, the future.
Talk to me, brother.
The future is advertising, right? So, if you look at advertising revenues and what's happening in the advertising industry, there's a big real estate problem, right? So, basically, when I say real estate, people used to watch, ads on these things called televisions, these big things, and and now you look at millennials. There's a shift to the devices that they're consuming content on. My 4.5-year-old daughter watches stuff on the iPhone, and I go, sweetheart, there's this 56-inch television. She goes, no, I want this iPhone, right? So it's a different sort of real estate issue where there's not a lot of places, because it's a smaller device, to get advertisement. So I think advertisers are looking at ways to reach millennials, and that's been brand integrations, where they actually work with top creators or influencers to put their advertisements in the content, because these influencers or creators can speak to their peer group in a way that traditional advertising can't. Brand integrations or endorsements from influencers or creators perform 16 times better than traditional advertising. So you guys that are out there as content creators have the power to get these brands to partner with you.
Yeah, so how do we do that?
So I think you gotta drive an audience. You have to take what you're doing and you've got to work it. I think you said the best comments, of the first half. It's really a job. A traditional album, you'd release, 10 tracks and maybe a few music videos, and that was it. Now traditional albums have about 60 pieces of content associated with it. If you're looking at YouTube as a platform, it's like you look at, you've got your artwork with each track, and that's 10 videos on YouTube. Then you got individual artwork tracks with the music on YouTube. Then you got the lyric videos. Then you get to the traditional video. Then you get to the commentary video. I mean, you got like 60 plus pieces of content for one album that is all driving viewership and driving AdSense advertising revenue on the YouTube platform, driving followers, because the algorithm is so strong for YouTube and for the internet. It's a living, breathing creature, and if you feed it and you feed it content constantly, it will drive more people to you. So you have to work harder to develop content, but once you do it and you develop that following, then they will come. Brands will come, and that's what we do. We help to, drive traffic, optimize, and monetize your platforms, because that's where it is. Brands are looking for you guys. You guys have the power to drive eyeballs.
I'm right here. I'm right here at the brand's Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to dovetail off of what you just said. Two things. One, kind of as Gene was saying, one of the things that's actually really great is you guys are actually here. Like you guys actually showed up at this engagement, which is amazing to me and fantastic. Because,
on a Sunday.
Yeah, well, and part of what's being said.
Yeah,
right. Well, and I think that I'm blown away at some of the things that are being said up here, and I'm kind of like, gosh, I hope everyone is hearing this, because we're talking about as the music industry is changing so dramatically, and we're talking about ways, if we separate art and commerce, we're talking about this commerce of building this thing brick by brick to not only make your money, but also to promote your art and to put your art out there and necessarily subsidize other elements of your art. But these are fantastic perspectives on the music industry from so many different people that have different perspectives. And one of the things I wanted to say is, I was just speaking to someone during the break about the idea of content and what it means to necessarily make a CD, or we're talking about record labels and whatnot. But one of the things I think that's fascinating is, for me as producing young singer-songwriters, like when I moved, I live up in Santa Barbara and moved back to my original, where I grew up, and I actually commute down to LA to work. And one of my passions is working with young singer-songwriters. But you have these young singer-songwriters who are asking about making a CD, and you start talking about budget. And one of the first things I have to say is, you're not going to make this back. just accept the idea that you're not going to make it back and think you're going to sell all of these records and make back the amount of money you're going to put into it. You've got to look at this as a calling card to drive people to other areas, whether it's necessarily merchandising, whether it's necessarily advertising, whether it's actually to give to someone to necessarily move your career to the next step. This is that content. You're creating content. And so the question is, how do you organize the content? How do you necessarily maximize the content? How do you maximize this investment you're making to your art, of your art, and kind of with your art? So I just wanted to kind of dovetail once again.
Perfect. I know that Bobby spends a lot of time. You want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly. 2 weeks ago, I sat down with one of my artists with a major record label, and a bit to my disappointment, but I totally understand it. They would not consider signing without seeing what the social media following was, and they wouldn't even listen or look at the artist without knowing what the numbers were on the social media. So what we're doing as far as promoting in social media is where everything is based around today.
Right. It's unfortunate that the major labels want all the work done for them ahead of time. And the answer, of course, is, well, I've got all this social media stuff. What do I need you for?
That hasn't changed.
Can I make a point about what you just said? As soon as you prove to the major labels you don't need them, they want you. Right. That's the trick. That's the trick of getting signed.
So I don't want to be Debbie Downer here. But can I be the voice of reality? Okay. I understand building content, and that's really cool. I mean, as an artist, I want to have a body of work, without a doubt. But let's talk about the reality of doing that. There's a financial reality. And I'm sorry, I've given out so many free things. I still have to pay my rent. I still have to eat. And some of the people who are musicians out there, they know what I'm talking about. You cannot keep doing this. What I think needs to change is this. It's kind of a social issue, isn't it? Because we're in the same place. Art, again, we're doing the same thing we always do in art. And we need to find a way to make fairness here. Because it's not just about money, it's about making a living. Look, when I came up, I could make a living as a singer. I could make a living as a singer. Not famous singer, just as a singer. Okay, and that was wonderful. And there were lots of ways I could do that because people actually paid me to do the jobs, and they paid me well. I can now go out and sing somewhere and make the same, no, less than what I used to make back then, which is frightening to me because I have way more experience. I'm a better musician. Okay, so those are the kinds of concepts that have to change. I love all these ideas about how we're going to get this stuff out there, but as an educator, I can't tell somebody, should I go into this business? Would I tell them now? No. Because you're not going to make a living. Do it as a hobby. Oh, that's so sad for me to say because I've never had to say that in my entire lifetime. It actually saddens me to say that. But the truth is I can't honestly look them in the eyes and say, yes, you can go out and just make a living. I'm not talking about being a star. I'm not talking make millions of dollars. Somebody who just loves what we talked about earlier. We love what we do and we just want to be able to feed our families and have a good life. I'm like the middle class musician. You know, that's the truth. And so we've got to find a way, and it's going to take, just like in politics, it's going to take you all to make that happen because why should the people on top, they don't care. Like you just said, the music business is doing great for all those people on the top. It's the people here that are the musicians slugging it out. So what I say is, and more women, can I just say, in all capacities. I got a sausage fest up here. I love it.
Whoa, baby.
I mean, I got into it because there were so many men. No, but the truth, and I love them all. But the truth is, we do need more women. That's a different point of view that we need, and not to play like a guy, but to play like who you are. I'm so tired of hearing that. You know, play like a guy or you play like a girl. Good, I'm glad you play like a girl. You're awesome. And we know there's some awesome women musicians. And producers there should be. And engineers. And you name it. So come on, ladies, let's change a point of view too. Okay?
Go ahead. This is diversity.
Yeah, I would like to add though, there's approximately, I study the music business registries every year and I track how many executives are hired and fired every year. It's part of the data that I track. there's approximately, give or take, 1,500 executives that work in the music business, and over a third of them are female. Maybe it'd be great if there were half, but if you compare that to other industries, our industry is, relatively speaking, quite progressive, at least from that particular point of view.
That's cool.
I think
Hold on.
I love the answer to that question. I think you know, I think what I'm talking about is sweat equity, basically. You know, I think the social media is the great equalizer. You know, if you talk about women that have been successful in what we do, you know, we have Lily Singh, who goes as Superwoman on YouTube. She was on Jimmy Fallon, and she basically posts videos, a lot of the music videos, online. You know, it's about sweat equity. It's about learning how to post content on the internet, which you can do fairly inexpensively, a lot cheaper than before, where you had to print up, you know, 2,500, you know, plastic things called CDs and had to give those out. I'm talking about putting up, you know, content on the internet. We have people that do vlogs of them and their families, and that's their livelihood. That's how they pay for their livelihood. We have, like I said, we have 1,100 channels. We do 3 billion views a month, and a lot of these guys are just posting content every day on YouTube, which frankly isn't very highly edited Hollywood level stuff, just videos of them and their family, videos of them and their lives, and they're driving a lot of traffic and gaining a lot of attention. So when I talk about, you know, cost, yes, it's time and it's intensive, but I think that the internet is really this great equalizer where anyone can get on social media, and as long as you put in the time and the effort to do it and learn the platforms, this is very important. A lot of people will say, well, I just need to get on everything. Don't get on everything if you don't know everything. You know, some people are good at YouTube, some people are good at Vine, some people are good at Instagram. Learn the platform that works for you, and then get on there and work that platform and drive viewership, and I promise you good things will happen.
Bobby, I know that social media is important, but what would you recommend musicians and singers add to or do?
Okay, well, ultimately, I mean, staying on the theme, I believe, of the panel, and that's sort of looking ahead into the future and sort of seeing like where things are going and what we need to kind of do. I'm going to say flat out right now, I mean, I'm not really sure any of us know specifically where everything is going to end up and where it's going to be 10 years from now. There's lots of clues of where it's going to go, certainly, and I think it's important to be aware of those things. I'm going to strip it down just real quick and just keep it even more and more basic, and I think this is an important point that we can't forget. Ultimately, I think what we need to do is and this is a difficult topic for some pure artists to kind of accept. However, I'm not so sure that it's just wise to sit in your bedroom and in your cellars and just create whatever you want to create and hope that it's going to be successful, simply because I'm not so sure that hope is the best strategy. When it actually works for people, then they're mad geniuses, and we think they're unbelievable, and we need to be like them. You know, they just did what they did and believed in what they believed in. But believing in what you believe in really sucks when you can't pay your rent or buy diapers for your kid. You know, so ultimately, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're not here because we just want to be hobbyists. You know, I think most of us, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, we like to create art and we'd like to share that art with people and maybe make a couple bucks in the process. And that might mean doing more than just guessing and hoping, and it just might mean having a real awareness to what's going on right now in the world. I mean, economically, politically, legally, where are things happening, where are things changing, what are people talking about, what are some of the issues in the world, what maybe is some of the problems that are wrong with hip-hop music right now. I mean, can we take it into a new direction and follow some of the innovators, or are we just going to keep on following the people that innovate, and by the time we get good doing it, it's already 10 years old. So I think ultimately what we need to do is just be aware, kind of think about what it is that you want to do and never compromise your integrity as an artist, but to kind of see some of the opportunities that might exist and kind of try to be the leaders, try to be innovators, try to solve some problems that might exist out there. In short, one thing I notice now, I think that's important. Obviously, there's a lot of tools that are available to all of us as artists right now, so it allows us to do a lot of things on our own, and it allows us, as Moses was saying in his panel earlier, which I happened to catch, we're sort of responsible now for building awareness in the marketplace before people will take us seriously. I think part of the problem now is, though, there are so many people trying to build awareness in the music industry that now it's so competitive that a lot of times you get lost in the sauce, so to speak. So, and that's another reason why finding your uniqueness and being innovative and maybe trying to find a little niche that's a little bit different from someone else might kind of put you on the radar a little bit quicker than perhaps someone else that's just trying to follow what everybody else is doing. I think it's a Me Too copycat market is a little tough. Once heard somebody say, if you're going to do exactly what someone else does, you better do it far better than them. Otherwise, you better find your own uniqueness and excel at it. So hopefully that provided something.
Troy represents the youth movement on this panel. And because he's on the younger side of things, his kind of intuitive nature and relationship with social media is almost immediate. And explain how you use social media and where you see what you're doing moves the industry forward, how you are doing with Next Gen.
I was just gonna say, I was talking with someone they were asking me how am I gonna get into becoming a singer-songwriter in the industry, and with social media, I think we all said that it's so easy, we have no excuse. And I was just gonna say, to go along with social media, my family comes from like a family of like doctors and lawyers, and education has always been important. And I think that as musicians, I think we think of it as more of an art and kind of romanticize the idea of like, I'm gonna get a record deal, I'm gonna do this, and I did that. But then it wasn't until I got to LA and realized like, oh, I need to be educated on what I need to do. And when you use education as your weapon in the music industry, along with your talent, that helps you become even stronger. And like you can get all hype with the social media, but for me, like being educated and being like good with your craft, you'll build up the hype, like, or like it will come with that. Like you don't need to be pretentious about it with social media. I'm not really a fan of social media, but I see where the power that it has. But when you couple that with like depth and education, I think that you'll become more successful that way.
I think it's something you can't treat social media as the end all. It's a tool for the expansive nature of what you're trying to do. It should not be the spearhead, though, of what you're trying to do. It should be the adjunct, and it takes a lot of work.
Just to once again to dovetail off of some of these things, I think that we're talking a lot about kind of a very similar kind of mindset, which is the reason I keep beating this dead horse of art versus commerce is I don't think anyone's speaking to the fact that you shouldn't necessarily pursue your art. I think my take on it is as a guitar instructor, when I would have students and they'd say, do I really have to learn other people's solos or other people's material? I would say, you know what, maybe you don't, but everyone else has. So the question, so the question for me, so it's like, I mean, you might be way better than me and more talented, and I'm not to put myself as talented, I'm just saying that you have to study. When we're speaking of art specifically, you've got to study your art. You've got to actually be, in my mind, the baddest out there. And when I say that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let this get too long. I remember watching a speaking engagement with Wynton Marsalis, and it really struck me because one of the people that asked him a question about racism, and he said, well, listen, he said, at the end of the day, you have to know you're the baddest in the room before you can call foul. And as an artist, you've got to know that you're the baddest in the room. Do the work, do your homework, this is your job. Amen. This is what you're dedicating yourself to. Don't fall short, and as David Foster said to me, good is the enemy of great. Don't settle for good, be great. Now that you feel like you're great, you've got that product, we're talking about how to get that out there and how to be, as you were saying, compensated for that art. So that's a whole other conversation, which is, now that we have that art, because you're going to make your CD, you're going to spend the money to get out there, how do you make that money back? You might not be able to sell all your CDs, as I was saying, so now we have to look at how are you going to market it. Are you going to go on social media and get other people to necessarily come and see it? Are you going to try to pursue a record label? Are you going to actually make sure that all of your social media is in place, all of your things are in place in order to necessarily get a record label interested? And perhaps that's not the best bet for you because, as we're saying, it's a whole different dynamic now. They're squeezing in such a way, like I watched all the bloodletting take place. I was with an artist on Warner Brothers right as things were changing, and I was watching everyone get fired. I just watched a friend of mine get fired from a huge record label recently who is a musical genius, and I was blown away. But unfortunately, it's like the paradigm shifted so dramatically that as we were saying, it's like no one can actually reach that far into the future. So what we're kind of talking about is from a grassroots level, where you are right now, what you can do tomorrow, how you can help yourself to make sure that you not only have a career, but make sure that you can be compensated for your art. There are very practical things you can do and build it brick by brick. Part of it is taking ownership of your art, meaning, in my mind, and this is from my small perspective, do you have a website? Is your website constructed in such a way that when I come to see it, if I only have 2 minutes because I met you, I dig you, and I want to find out what you're doing, am I going to see what I need to see to move deeper? Am I going to want to recommend you? Am I going to want to move forward or like push you or introduce you to some of these people because of what's been presented to me? You can't tell me, hey, check me out on Facebook, because I mean, I might see you on Facebook, but that doesn't tell me what your music sounds like, your art, your pictures, your video. In my mind, your website is your clearinghouse. So make sure that all your ducks are in a row, and to me, take control and ownership of your career and moving your art forward. And these are all great kind of strategies to take on. You might, as you were saying, be great at one and horrible at another, but learn it, study it, get good at it. You have no excuse, and it's really hard to just be great. And I'll finish with one thing. Tommy Tedesco said, I ain't never heard of nobody breaking into your room to hear you play.
Right.
Right?
I got a quick thing. Can
I think that what I've just been given in about 10 minutes, so I want to give everybody a chance to be really brief, but my comment is, if you only knew how much time and agony and effort and practice it takes to be really shitty, then you may know how much time and effort it takes to be fantastic. So, okay.
I just wanted to be on the optimistic point of view. The future of music is you. The future of music in a time of not knowing what to do exactly. There's all these tools. We're not really sure exactly where it's going. This is opportunity for you to create something. I remember when CD Baby got started. You know, that was a chance for people who could get distribution that could never get distribution from a label. These are the times for you to don't try to figure out what everybody else is doing. Come up with something that's going to be helpful. You're the future.
If I could say something real quick, you guys, since we're talking about monetization and we're talking about art at the same time, of course, think about all the different ways. If you're all songwriters, just take your song and think about all the different ways that you can make income from that one song. So, for example, you have a song is a song, right? But let's just say, for example, you take the lyrics of that song. Now, could it be something that maybe could be licensable on film and television? If you do a transcription version of that in another language, let's just say, could it be used in another way? If you put it into the format of sheet music, would some of your fans be maybe interested in buying it that way? If you take the lyrics off of one of your songs and you put the chorus of the lyric to your song on a T-shirt, could it be something of that nature? You know, I mean, when I was with Q Prime Management, they saw me throwing away my drumsticks and my heads, and they were like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Take that, sign it, let's put it in a nice frame, and we'll make 250 of those, and we'll sell your broken drum head and your broken drumstick that's got blood on it and stuff, and we'll frame it and sell it for $250, you know?" So, and you have people taking their guitar picks and making necklaces out of it, and taking guitar strings and making, necklaces. I mean, there's so many ways that you could take your product and maybe create other products and expand your product line. So just thinking innovatively also might be a way to kind of, bring in more income as well.
Gene.
I think what we're all saying here is one thing, and that is take the creativity, take your talent, make it the very best that it can be, and don't just put something out there for the sake of putting something out there. Let's make sure that we use this new technology to make our product really good. There is something that I want to share with you that just came out, and that is, for the first time in history, catalog releases have outsold new releases.
Right.
And
Think about
that's
that.
saying something. You think about that.
All right, Moses.
I don't know if what I'm going to say is going to be very popular or not, but I've never cared about it. My dream would be for every artist in this room to be able to make a 6-figure income with their music. So
What's wrong with
based on that, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. So I have clients at all levels. I have clients on major labels, and I have clients that are independent. The clients who are on major labels live in bigger houses, drive better cars, and their kids go to private schools. If you're serious about a six-figure income with your music, you cannot discount the concept of eventually making an alliance with a large company. They are the banks of the industry. I believe somebody once asked John Dillinger why he robs banks, and his answer was, that's where the money is. The money in this business flows from 3 major distributors, and there are approximately 40 labels, and the budgets they hand out, which trickles down into producers, managers, lawyers, and everybody else. And all they're caring about right now is metrics that generate from social media, YouTube, streams, Spotify, Pandora, things like that. Now, before you say, oh, well, I don't care about all that. Before we had all this technology, if you wanted your fans to help you generate the kind of statistics that attract a major label, you'd have to have them buy your CD or a t-shirt or something like that, which costs money. But thanks to Spotify, your fans can help you get a major label deal without spending a dime. All they have to do is listen to you on a platform that's free. Those statistics attract the attention of major labels, and that's what leads to deals, and that's what writes checks, and that's what will send your kids to private school.
Thank you. Listen, guys, I know I've already been given the cutoff sign, so what I'd like to do is encourage everybody to go outside. These guys are going to come out and be able to answer any questions and talk to you. I want the panelists just stay here so we can grab a photo, and then everyone will meet you outside. They want this room. So again, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.